I won't record until I know for certain that everything's good. I won't record until I know for certain
it's going.
that everything's good. I won't
Children
record
abuse.
until
Yeah, it's going. Someone said, let's go CA Simulator. And I love the book. Says 10-year-olds, J.K. Rowling's on the nose, dialogue and her self-reflection in Hermione can't be seen but didn't bother me. Just fun world building with a lot of plot contrivances. But it didn't bother me. It's just fun, expands imagination, and at the end of the day, I can respect that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this first movie because I think so I don't know how I was going to say compliments, but the things that I would give this movie credit for, I don't know how much of that's going to last throughout the whole series. And it's been a while. I haven't seen Sorcerer's Stone or Philosopher's Stone, depending on where you grew up.
Depending on how stupid you are.
I haven't seen this in, at least since college. So it's been 6 or 7 years.
I watched it this weekend.
Before, you know what I mean? Before, God. I missed you. But before rewatching it, and there's quite a bit. So we're gonna jump into this. Joseph's feeling a little bit under the weather, so
I had to do it tonight because David called me last week and was like, "Hey, I don't want to do the stream tonight. I just want to play Resident
That's not
Evil
exactly how that
Diablo."
conversation went.
He said, "I hate the troll room and the podcast, and I just want to play video games."
I was like itching, man. I hardly got to play the weekend that it came out because I had like some work stuff going on, which was fine. It was kind of interesting. But I was just like itching to play.
No, I hear you. But it's been since The Last of Us season finale since we had a podcast episode. Yeah. And I saw yesterday when I was going to watch Harry Potter, saw the making of The Last of Us, and I was like, the only thing I could think of that's probably worse than watching the TV series is probably watching how they made it.
the only interesting stuff,
except for the production and
that's
design.
that's what I was gonna say. The only interesting stuff is if they had an episode that was like, well, here's a lot of the makeup and the costumes and set design, because I'm pretty sure they built Jackson.
Yeah, that was
kind of
pristine cool. Production and set design and makeup.
Yeah,
man, just really great.
And no matter how you feel about the second game, it is it looks one for one. I don't think it totally is, and I don't know if we ever talked about this on the stream, or if I'm pretty sure I sent you this video. There's a video from that episode. Someone found someone in Jackson shoveling wood, like logs.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It's like, it's like got that don't be suspicious audio behind it, and the guy's like taking a log up with the shovel and like moving it like he's digging. It's really funny. So hello to everyone in the troll room. Sandy, Jenna, as usual, thank you for sticking with me through nearly all of the Resident Evil 4 streams. I'm gonna get back to The Last of Us Part 2 probably later this week. I need a break.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I just needed a break from streaming games.
Streaming that. Weren't you telling me this past weekend that it was your favorite of both parts was Part 2?
Oh, it's absolutely my favorite. The story is so good. There are no stupid contrivances in it. They treat every character from the first game with respect. It's just a wonderful piece of media, Last of Us 2.
And literature, just,
the dialogue. What's up, Zax? Yeah,
hey,
the dialogue is, it doesn't get much better than the lesbian romance adventure Murder Simulator. Now,
Well, speaking of which, let's hop into Harry Potter.
eventually, I got to figure out how it's going to work, but I do want to do like a detailed discussion about The Last of Us 2, and it probably can't wait until the series comes out, because I don't think we're getting that 2025 would be my guess.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we're going to see it next year.
You don't?
No.
I don't know. The Mandalorian's off to such a hot start, season 3. That. But, I think you're probably right. Probably 2025, maybe. But we may get a tail end of 24. I think we'll get
possible,
House of the Dragon in 24.
Yeah. Dude, I'm still waiting.
We got this summer, though, right? We get The Witcher season 3. Henry Cavill's last season.
Yeah.
Oh,
didn't you sent me something recently where they were like they didn't even want him in season 2?
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Idiot.
Yeah,
Talk about not being able to see.
Dude, the Mandalorian. Yeah, there's like I've been doing is at this point with just about all Star Wars content, I just watch EFAP's reactions to the Star Wars stuff. And one of the episodes, Mando trips in a pool of water and sinks to the bottom. And all these people were on, like, I guess Twitter, and they were all saying like, no, a fish grabbed him or something got him. But then they confirm in the next episode that he tripped. Like, he's like, oh no, I tripped.
That's hilarious.
And it's just, dude, apparently
Star
the
Wars
numbers are down.
Is terrible.
Oh, it's rough. And I know people liked Andor.
I couldn't be bothered.
I just can't. I watched the first 3 episodes and just never went back. And those were the only, to be fair, they were the only 3 episodes that were out at the time. I think I probably would have kept watching it if all of it had been out. But once I'm done with The Last of Us Part 2, I am going to start Jedi Fallen Order and then play Jedi Survivor when it comes out. A bunch of people from our Discord and who have hopped into the chat, who may be in the Discord at this point, they've been recommending it, and apparently the first one's not that long, so I was like, okay, I can do that. Like, if you're giving me, like a 10-15 hour game, like I can deal with something like that. I can get that knocked out in a few sessions. And I've played some. Yeah, I've played some of the first one, and I liked it. I mean, it seems like as far as Star Wars content goes, that overall is the stuff that people are really, they're into it right now. Like, they like the story, they find it interesting. It seems like traditional Star Wars, and it's not like making fun of the source material or treating it with really bad care. The other thing, and we'll have to talk about this because I don't know if you're going to want to talk about it next week, but I am going to see John Wick on Friday.
Oh, nice.
So it's up to you. It can either be I'll talk about it for the first 10 minutes of the show, or we can do a whole episode on it. It's up to you.
Oh man, just depends on if I had the time to go see it. I'm not sure if I will. But
so I haven't.
We can just
now.
talk about it anyway if you want to next week.
Yeah.
And, I don't really mind. Like, it's not going to spoil the movie for me, if that makes sense. Maybe I'll figure out a way to watch it.
Oh, you could do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's definitely there. I mean, like, the quality's not going to be very good, but there are ways. So, but yeah, what's up, everybody? Welcome to. Oops, I have the wrong episode number in the title on YouTube.
Hey.
This is episode 134, not 133.
Get
welcome
it together,
back.
David.
I know.
We don't pay you the big dollars for nothing.
It's like we've been off for 2 weeks. Welcome back, everyone.
3 weeks.
No, it's only been 2. It was last week and the week before. Yeah.
But see, when I'm away from you, it feels longer.
That's
so
how
much
much
I miss
longer.
you.
It feels so much longer.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
We do have a producer for this episode too. I'm not sure if you wrote that down or not, but I can pull it up.
I did not write it down.
Okay, I know. See, Joseph's just not feeling. He's not feeling so good today.
No.
Let me.
Is it old Johnny Boy or is it old Tittles?
It is John Burke with his
John Burt.
monthly subscription to The Underground. So he is
Thank
a
you, John.
producer on episode 134. And thank you to everybody that's been donating to the show in whatever way you are. We kind of just, this was sort of like, because it came up, if you happen to be on any stream, whether that's me just doing a gaming stream or on the night of a podcast episode, your donation, the producership will be carried over to the next episode.
Absolutely. It's part of our value per value system where, you know, you get to support us and keep us ad free, but it's not just so that we don't have to do advertisements of Raid Shadow Legends or, you know, Kamikoto knives or hey, buy a plot of fake land in Scotland or whatnot so you can become a fake lady and lord. And if you've done that, no big deal. We all like novelty things, but you know, it keeps us to YouTube already, you know, being on the platform censors us, and it's just a way for us to, when YouTube kicks us off, or if they ever do, then we have that support system built in, and it helps us with the quality too. We can start doing more videos, because right now we essentially do every Monday night for the podcast, and then David will do 1 or 2 different live streams of certain video games he's playing that week. But your donations definitely help us keep our channel monetization free for long form videos and advertisement free, and in the future will help us with being able to make more videos. So
yeah, and ads suck. Like I've been listening to some other podcasts recently, just kind of like some stuff that I kind of fell off of. You know how, I'm sure you know how that is. It's like you listen to stuff for so long, and then at some point you're like, like you take a break from it, and it, you know, 6 months later you're like, oh yeah, I remember that podcast. I was like, I liked that. I want to go back and listen to it. And some of them have just so many ads, dude. And then they're trying to sell you like electric cars and like insurance, and I mean, pick your poison.
I'm not trying to go electric. I'm trying to dump gasoline outside my house. You know, I'm trying to burn tires and everything. Now I know what you mean. That's kind of, I actually do. I like, you know, even though Joe Rogan, and other podcasts, he's not the only one. There are other podcasts who will do all their ads in the front, so you can just skip and go to the podcast and not have to worry about it. I don't necessarily mind that. At least it gives you the skip option.
Yeah, you can skip through them, but sometimes when I'm driving in my car, I can't really get to that. Yeah. And the thing that drives me crazy about the Joe Rogan stuff, just to talk about ads for a second, is that I pay for Spotify. Why am I getting ads on Rogan's pod? I mean, like, I know they're technically separate, but the whole point is that you don't have to listen to ads. And they're built into his podcast. Like, it stops the show, transitions over to a pre-recorded ad, and then goes back to the show. It's not like it's not it's just in the podcast itself. So it sometimes it's got weird loading problems. I don't like Spotify all that much.
So maybe we could do something in the future to where, you know, once we get enough donations, you know, one of the things we like to shy away from with Joe Rogan is, or not with Joe Rogan, but with ads, is we don't like to do any sort of kind of Patreon type deal to where if you give, you know, $50 instead of $20, then you get an extra episode of the podcast or whatnot. But we could do something like all donors get possibly, we talk about off show, like earlier access to our live stream, or, you know, I don't know, maybe like higher access within Discord or something. Or just nothing.
It's a lot of work. And we've talked about this before. It's like the product is the product. The point of
the product goes up with the more donors we have.
Yeah, because there's more time that can be spent on that. So certain things will be better quality. You know, I can afford to get someone to do like background art for the live streams, or you know what I mean. There's just these little things that now become available to us. Jenna wants a toe cam, so
Definitely, we'll have the foot cam. We're
The foot
going.
game. Yeah.
We can be on OnlyFans. That's our,
There you go.
direct
Yeah.
there to funnel back into the podcast. And
Oh
it's
no,
just
they've got
pictures of our
a
feet.
foot find. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they had a ad for it where there's something called like Foot Finder or something. It's like
Oh no!
it's like a legit thing. Yeah, so all of that to be said, no matter how you feel about any of the people that we talked about, it's fine if you don't appreciate Joe Rogan. But all of it to be said, the idea behind all of this is that we want to make sure that some of it is the uncancelable thing, if you will, because you're completely funded by the people that are listening to the show. But it's also so that, I don't want to have like tiered stuff. Like I've thought about doing something on YouTube for like the member thing, but I honestly would just do it at 99 cents. And it's just one of those simple ways that people can support. And really the only reason I want to do it is so that I can make custom emojis for chat.
Yeah, you should do it.
You know what I mean? So
99.
Yeah, it's like 99 cents. You get the membership, and you get like custom emojis. And it slowly every month builds like that little bit of income. The problem with that is, like you were saying, if YouTube just decides one day at this point they don't even have to have a reason. If they just decide to revoke any of that stuff from us, then that is monetarily that's stuff that we lose, which is why the PayPal link, why eventually we'll have the Bitcoin stuff back up, why that's the better way to go if you want to monetarily support the show, because it keeps it out of the hands of those people. And, I know PayPal's not perfect, but we're way too small at this. Like, I'm not going to worry about PayPal. And like, if we were on like the Eric July level where it's like the crazy amount of money's coming in and they're like, no, and they start like keeping it, then I'd be like, okay, well, I guess we need to find some sort of, we need to start working towards an alternate method. But like, there's no point right now. Like, we're not on their radar.
What if we did Cash App instead?
Seems
I feel like everybody has Cash App.
Yeah, right. Yeah, but that's like, I don't know. There's something weird about that. Like, Cash App's what you do when your friend buys you a Coke at the store and you need to pay him back. You know what I mean? Like, it feels it feels
just
weird.
Your boomer status.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I just I don't know. It's very odd.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
All right, let's get into Harry Potter. It's already been like 15 minutes. Joseph, what made you want to talk about these movies in particular before we get into the first one? Because this was your idea.
Yeah. So I didn't come into Harry Potter because I was more of a Lord of the Rings person until probably Oh man, I did see the last one. The last one was the first one I watched, funny enough. Yeah. But I think it was in college when I first watched all of them. And then I stopped then. I was like, okay, I didn't really miss anything. And then when I started seeing my wife, first started dating her, we watched them. And more along I got more into them, and I thought that it'd just be a good series. Like, it's part of people's childhood, our generation. They're thinking about remaking it, so I think it would be a good
we've talked
way
about that.
to really go through it, because you and I have talked about it from time to time. I think there's a lot of things within it that are good, and a lot of things, specifically the movies we're talking about here, not the books, that are bad.
Yeah. So
let's just put it that way.
The troll room can correct me, but I think Sorcerer's Stone is probably the most book accurate of the movies. Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets, and I am working off I haven't read either of those books in a very, very long time. But I
take that back. I've read the fourth Harry Potter book. That's
just the fourth one.
We read it as a class. That's
okay. I'm pretty sure the first two movies are the most book accurate. Hang on. Half-Blood Prince, which is the sixth book, because there's 7 books and 8 movies. Is that right? Because they split the last one into... Yeah, because it's 7 years at Hogwarts.
Because they really needed to do that.
Yeah. They should have done it with the fifth book. The fifth book is massive.
I don't know why they did it with
It's
that last
also
movie. That last movie of just them wandering around. Oh my.
yeah. Well, it was during that era where everything had to be split into two, and
Yeah.
the Harry Potter might have started that trend. I think that's who we have to thank for every last thing. You know how like even the last Hunger Games movie, which didn't at all need to be two movies, got split into two. That last book sucks too. That series is a little weird. That might be an
Hollywood
interesting.
is greedy, man. They want to make that money.
Oh yeah, yeah. Though I mean, Harry Potter's probably who we have to blame for getting
Ooh.
3 Hobbit movies.
Should that be next on our list of childhood movies to possibly either
Hunger Games?
destroy or ruin or, maybe praise
Yeah.
that hold up well?
Oh, you know what?
After we do all the Harry Potters?
I have some ideas because I think what we should probably do, because I think the first Hunger Games is really the only one that you could probably find some merit in. She wrote the same book twice and then didn't really know what to do with the last one. Like the last book is pretty terrible. It's not that interesting and is kind of still the same concept, but she just took it out of like an arena setting and made it about like a Civil War type thing. It's not great, but we could also. It's not really childhood because I think that I was in college when this came out.
Right.
I'm not against talking about him though. There is a movie though called Battle Royale. That is what a lot of people say she ripped off to create the Hunger Games. Because it's very similar. It's a Japanese movie. It's very good. It's got kind of a dark sense of humor to it. And maybe we might have to do that. And once we're done with Harry Potter.
Maybe.
So we'll
The Witcher isn't out by then.
Yeah. Well, of course, Witcher and whatever else happens to come out, we'll be slowly putting in some of these other things as we go through the new series or whatever happens to be out. I assume Witcher's coming out at all of it's going to come out at once.
Probably will. That's typically how it happens.
But yeah, let's see. So general thoughts about this first movie, and then we'll kind of get into some details about
it. I'm kind of... There's things I like about it and things I don't like about it. Like, for example, Dumbledore in the beginning. He leaves Harry with seemingly or with people he knows who are abusive and will mistreat him because everybody in the wizardry world is going to know him. Like, why would you? There's not anyone in the wizarding world that he could have left him with, or anyone else that would have treated Harry better. So for 12 years of his life or 13 years or however old he is in this movie, he gets abused and mistreated.
Yeah, I think he's 12 when he gets taken to Hogwarts.
It's just mental.
Yeah, it's very strange. Dumbledore,
and leave him out on a cold night with just a letter.
Yep, Dumbledore.
Like when you're a top wizard.
Yeah, he could have just taken Harry in.
Yeah.
There's no reason. There are hundreds, thousands. I mean, we don't even really know. Like, there's a whole wizarding community, right?
Yeah.
And you're telling me that no one would have taken him in, and that there was. And I guess I think if I remember correctly, or at least this is what I'm going to go off of. There was some sort of reasoning. I still think it was stupid, right? Because I think they were hunting for him. So for some reason, taking him to his aunt and uncle's was the best option. But at the same time, yeah, it did make sense that this was what they would do with him for the first 12 years.
And why wouldn't and again, I'm not very familiar with the lore as far as the books.
It's
but
been
those
a while.
who were hunting him, why wouldn't they go into? We know they can go into the Muggle world, or into the real world. So why wouldn't they go into the Muggle world to? Hey, I wonder if Harry has any relatives that aren't in the Wizarding world. Would be like a basic thing if you're hunting someone to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole setup for this is very weird. That was kind of one of the things I was thinking too. I was trying to kind of just go along with it a little bit.
Yeah.
Just be like, okay, it's a pretty weak setup.
It is.
That, and in the sense of that, what you would almost say the conclusion to the setup, where it's like, okay, his parents are dead. We find that out. A dark sorcerer, no one wants to say his name, which is another kind of like really weird.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and this is kind of the problem with what I would call a very. Would you consider Harry Potter to have a soft magic system? Like, I guess it's not, because there are specific spells, and I guess what I'm trying to say is it's like the world building around the way that magic works in Harry Potter. In fact, the world building in Harry Potter in general, I think that's what I find to just be weak.
It is weak.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Even the spells that there's a couple spells that they use throughout the series, but then there's that one that Hermione uses that completely freezes Neville, I think it is.
Yeah.
And makes him fall over, and then many other times where that would have come in handy, she never uses it again.
It's very circumstantial. And yeah, it's and we'll get into it, I think, in later movies, but like Avada Kedavra, it's like, oh, it's the unforgivable curse because it automatically kills people. But it's like, well, if you're in a fight for your life, isn't that what you want to use? Like, I don't understand the logic here. And some of it I do. I think that she made a book for children, and over time she had to keep writing this because it was very popular, and she never considered how to make the magic system work properly. I don't think she ever had any intention of looking into it very deep. Like, I just,
it's imbalance in the show, or in the movie.
It's wild.
Sure. Do you think that Harry is a Mary Sue?
No, because he gets hurt all the time, especially in the books. Like, I don't know. We'll have to go through the movies or whatever. But he's not.
Yep.
He constantly fails. He gets caught all the time. He gets treated too well, I think. And we'll get to it when we get to the houses. But there's a lot of like, other than the Dursleys, who are my favorite part of the movie. Well, I would say one of my favorite parts of the movie. The opening to this, after he gets dropped off. So despite the whole sort of why on earth did they just leave him with this awful family who would hate him? And
they forgot his scar in one of the scenes too.
Of course they did. Yeah.
By the way, and with him as an adult too.
But I love a lot of this. Like they feel very like a family from Willy Wonka to me.
Yes.
And there's a lot of, I guess to some degree, I have some nostalgia for this movie because I saw this in theaters when it came out. And it's very whimsical. It's got a great score. The cast is unreal. There are people in this. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I forgot they were in this. It's like that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Great actors in this movie.
Yeah, John Hurt is in this, which I had no idea. He plays Ollivander.
Yeah, John Hurt, and then this lady, I forget her name. That's
Fiona Shaw.
Right, yeah, she's great, and him too.
Warwick Davis is in this, and I like Richard Harris, who plays Dumbledore. His portrayal of Dumbledore is quite a bit better than Michael Gambon's, which we'll get to because Richard Harris dies between the second and third movie. Michael Gambon takes over, and it's not that he's a bad actor, because we talk about this a lot whenever we're reviewing stuff or we're just discussing different movies, TV, whatever. You try to find that line between, is it a bad actor or is it bad direction? And I think when it comes to this, he was given bad direction.
How so?
Well, Michael Gambon, when we get to, like, especially I think it's the fourth movie is where you can see it the most. Dumbledore is very calm. He's a calming presence. It's not a good thing when he gets angry, when, he starts to show that kind of emotion, because he's very stoic. Yeah, he's very stoic. And so the problem with Michael Gambon's portrayal of him later on in the series is that he doesn't really play it that way. At times he does, but he'll yell and he gets angry and very much wears like emotions on his sleeves a little too much. It was a common complaint about his portrayal of Dumbledore when the movies were coming out.
To my understanding, it was him.
Oh, Alan Rickman as Snape, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, I was about to say Alan Rickman. He was the one that made that change. He wanted to be different from the previous portrayal of Dumbledore, and so
it's just dumb. It's not the point. Like you're playing a character.
For this movie, the acting definitely elevates the script. Again, not that the script is terrible. I think it's still a good movie. I'd give it like, I don't like rating anymore, but I think it's a good movie.
Yeah.
I think, the script could be better, but it's a good movie. It's worth the watch. It's a lot better than things coming out these days. There's a lot to be enjoyed. The whimsicalness of it, the childhood, kind of warmness to it is nice. I was going to say Alan Rickman, Sandy took it from me, but he still's the show for me. I always enjoy seeing him on the screen, even though when he first comes in, when they're in potions and he gets on the Harry for not knowing the answers to his questions of like
it's like his first day. Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
So to be fair to that scene in particular, I think the idea.
So there was some reading they were supposed to do prior.
No. I would say if I was trying to steelman for the scene, I think it's easy enough to say that Snape has something to prove, like as far as Harry is concerned. Like everyone is looking at Harry like, oh, he's so amazing, But he's like, this kid doesn't even know potions. You know what I mean? So like that's kind of where some of what Snape is.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and he's trying to humble him a little bit. It's later on you kind of find out some more information about Snape and his story, and I think some of that is later becomes more relevant to this, but I would say that's probably where he was coming from, because everyone's just so like wow about Harry. I want to talk about the scene real quick. I thought this was really, really cool because practical effects are something that I like quite a bit. So when Harry's getting letters sent to him, now I don't know if it's the case for every single letter that comes in towards the end, but I'm pretty sure this part where the house gets flooded with letters, I think this is all real. Because
I was looking at it and I was like, this has to be practical effect. It looks really good.
You can see, let's see if it'll play some of it. You can see like the letters flying around in the house. Like they're getting shot in somewhere, and a bunch of them like hit Mr. Dursley, and Harry picks up one, and there's a shot in a second where I got to be really careful with this because I don't want us to get where he's on the floor with Harry and he's just getting pummeled by letters, and it just made me realize, I was like, man, someone spent all that time making those for this one scene.
It's nice, isn't it?
It's and it's just a little bit of details.
You definitely see that care went into this. Like it was made by people who really enjoyed the books, and even though there are imperfections and there's spots where it doesn't hold up, some things that don't make sense, it's the acting and everything else around it that really solidify this as being a movie well worth the watch. That's rewatchable too. I've gone back to this in my adulthood like 3-4 times now.
And there's stuff that's goofy about this, like Hagrid constantly giving away secrets to Harry. I think it's a little on the nose. It's not like a terrible offense or anything like that. But getting back to what I was saying earlier, the whole thing with Voldemort and how everyone's like, oh no, you can't say his name, and then you're like, well, why? Oh, well, because he did a bad thing, and it's like, so there's no repercussion, So and it's interesting because in the Wheel of Time, the reason that they typically don't say the name of, like, quote unquote, like the great evil in that is because there is a either legitimate or paranoia that it's going to reincarnate that enemy.
Right.
So there's something on the line, and the reason why they don't even want to, like, think about him because they're worried that that's going to manifest him into reality. Whereas in this, it's just like, you know, Voldemort is a metaphor for Hitler.
Yep.
Like, it's not, this is the one thing about, or one of the things about J.K. Rowling is it's like, these books aren't exactly deep, you know? And it's not to say that they're definitely not the worst literature out there. No, and again, it's an instance where you can really say, this was made for children.
Yep.
You know, this,
fine.
Yeah.
And she nailed it out of the park, you know, in a lot of ways. And
lightning in a bottle. Unreal. I mean, it's a little bit of a pun there, but it's crazy that, I mean, she's a billionaire because of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I don't think she's done anything to the same kind of relevant sense. I mean, she's living off the royalties to this. And like,
I didn't even know she did anything else if she did.
Yeah, so she's written some stuff under another pen name. She wrote that sequel book / screenplay. She's been in some way involved with the Magical Beasts movies.
Oh yeah, Fantastic Beasts.
The Fantastic Beasts, yeah.
Fantastic Beasts, and we're not defined.
And we're I don't think they're going to.
Not until you get someone better who knows how to make a coherent script.
So yeah, there's a lot of questions that you can ask. It's like Hagrid leaves Harry on the at the train station and doesn't tell him where to go, and Harry
nothing.
Harry just happens to stumble upon the Weasleys. Otherwise, it would have been like, well.
And then on top of that, you have the Weasleys and all of them running into this pillar, right? This brick pillar to go to Hogwarts. And there's all kinds of people just passing by. No one stops and says, what the?
Yeah. So I think that's explained in the books that there's some sort of like protections or charms on certain places in London and where these magical spots exist that keep people from looking at them.
Okay.
I don't remember if that gets explained later on in the books or if it is in the first one, because again, like I said, I haven't read these things in forever. But yeah, from a movie-going perspective, it's like, what? Like, no one
throwaway line or anything that I'm aware of. If I'm wrong, correct me, Troll Room. But yeah, that's one thing I thought was why is nobody looking and just being, you know, what's going on here? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. So, but I like all the introductions to the kids.
That's the other thing. Ron's rat
Scabbers.
They only, Hagrid told Harry the only animals allowed in Hogwarts are owls, cats, and toads.
Yeah.
And yet Ron has a rat.
Yeah.
It never gets explained, does it?
I just don't think they're that. 100%. Yeah, there may have been something about how he was kind of sneaking the rat around or whatever. I just don't think they care that much. Like, it's very loose as far as, I mean, we can talk about it, but Hogwarts has pretty loose rules when it comes to 12-year-olds.
Forest, but by the way, your detention is to go into the forest and then split up.
Yep.
Deadly forest.
Yeah. The adult goes with one of them, and the two 12-year-olds get the dog. But I do like the introduction. I think they all do a good job, especially considering they're child actors.
They did a really good job.
Yeah, I think I really enjoy Emma Watson's performance in this as Hermione. This is before they kind of just made them moody teenagers, and they were trying to really wait till we get to Half-Blood Prince. Oh my god, dude. That movie should have been called Harry Potter and the Raging Hormones. And that movie's wild, dude.
A continuation, because that's kind of what happens in, well, I mean, need be just because of the pendulance and everything, but from
Um,
Full.
so yeah, there's
The
a lot of.
introduction to Hogwarts is nice
It's
too. That
great.
opening
The
scene
boats, yeah.
and the music, the score in this is
Mm-hmm.
iconic.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about an iconic score. Anytime anybody hears that melody, you know exactly what it is. I mean, it's not as iconic as Lord of the Rings, but it's
No.
nearly there.
John Williams does a good job with the score. Again, you get a lot of practical effects in this, a lot of sets.
Which is
I'm
really
pretty
great.
sure. I'm pretty sure Hogwarts, the outside of it is a miniature, which they still do sometimes.
And the candles are being hung on a string or wire.
I think they're I think
wire.
in a lot of it, you can tell when stuff is CG in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's fairly
That's
obvious.
A talking hat too.
It's a real talking hat. Let's talk about the houses, because this has been something that's been a thorn in my side with this series, I think, as long as it's been around. It drives me crazy. And this is when we talk about sort of the simplistic nature of Harry Potter, this is one of those things that I think is more of a negative than a, well, you can kind of excuse certain things about the series based on the audience. It's crazy to me that she was basically like, the good guys are in Gryffindor, the bad guys are in Slytherin. There's like exceptions to the Slytherin thing, but it's pretty much that straightforward. Hufflepuff is full of generally like clumsy, sort of like keep to themselves, like the introverts, and then Ravenclaw is the smart kids.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go any further than that. Like she didn't consider, she never considered that maybe she should have put Harry in Gryffindor, Ron in Hufflepuff, and Hermione in Ravenclaw, and then had them come to become friends despite the fact that they're in different houses. Like, they're like, okay, you're in Gryffindor, and then nothing else really matters except for their occasional interaction, mostly with Slytherin, and then from time to time, depending on the movie, with one of the two other houses.
Yeah, there's nothing that really happens with the other houses, the other two, Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff. You don't really get to know them very much at all. So you're spot on with that.
Yeah, it's odd to me that was the case, and I always wanted her to go into more detail when she was writing the books, or like introduce characters.
Oh, so that's a book thing too. That's not just.
Oh no, it's a book thing too. Yeah, that's really where that comes from. And it's worse in the movies because they can ignore certain aspects of the other houses because it is side stuff for the most part. Like Harry has a relationship with one of the girls from Ravenclaw later on, and Cedric Diggory, he's the only thing important about Hufflepuff as far as I can remember. And that doesn't happen until the fourth movie. And so there are these little things that she threw in, but for the most part, they all go to Gryffindor, and then the story is just about them being in Gryffindor, and then the deal, like the stuff when they have to deal with the kids in Slytherin.
Right.
And the other two houses, like they hardly matter. She could have had one of two houses, and that could have been the story, and it wouldn't have changed a whole lot,
Yep.
So it always bothered me. Plus the preferential treatment that Harry gets through the series.
The score system is all kinds of wacky. It's just whatever the
like. You're absolutely right. It's like
50 points to Harry for waving his wand correctly.
There's no, and this is something. It's funny. I think that Harry Potter is a very good example and something for us to talk about. Like when you create a system, if you will, in a story. So like the point system for Harry Potter and the different houses. And then you don't go any further than, it's just the system that the teachers can give points to the kids.
Yeah.
And then whoever has the most points at the end of the year wins the House Cup. That's all that happens. But there's no system to that. So she never took the time to be like, okay, well, acts of bravery are this many points. And this is getting into the nerd and getting into the deeper stuff. But it's something that I think is very necessary when you write, even if it is for kids. You can set something up where it's like, okay, well, we have this point system. Well, how does the point system work? What are actions that get points taken away? What are actions
Howard is
that
flying, and this is how much and everything. Yeah, some
Mhm.
kind of basic. It doesn't have to be this detail-oriented system, but some kind of basic system set up, point system, and to where at least as the audience we know, okay, this is how you can, gain more points, lose them, and then eventually end up winning the cup. I do like the fact that Miss McGonagall and Dumbledore are kind of these sort of good authority figures in the movie,
Yeah.
and how even though McGonagall is a stern woman, a stickler for the rules, she's very much respectful to the kids, and even in a playful way when she tells Ron and Harry, if you're do I need to turn one of you into a pocket watch, making her point in jest. She's never too demeaning or anything of the sort. And then Dumbledore is obviously Harry's father figure and comforting, and but yet he's strong and everything, even though he's kind of an idiot in this movie. He's wise and stupid at the same time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you'd probably have to explain a little bit more. I mean, like,
So I guess what I would be is like, Dumbledore is supposed to be this wise teacher, right? This seeing all, not all things but most things,
yeah,
and um yet what is it? Professor Quirrell, right, has freaking Voldemort on his
on the
head,
back of his
and
head, and he doesn't even
and
realize it.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
it
go
is.
for an entire year, and even
Uh-huh.
after the troll, nothing tips him off, and it's just like, in my opinion, with how Dumbledore is written, at least the troll thing would be enough to tip him off. Okay, something's going on here.
Yeah. Those are
You know,
those things in stories where they have to sort, and it's not an excuse. It's not what I'm getting at. But it's interesting how, in order for the story to work properly, characters sometimes have to be stupid in the moment.
yeah,
And it's something we talk about a lot with things. Yeah, they have to be uninvolved in a certain situation, and it is weird that there's nothing. I mean, I guess you have. Okay, so I guess you have to go with as far as Professor Quirrell is concerned. The only reason that Harry has that feeling or whatever is because he's directly connected to Voldemort through the scar.
but okay, yeah, but let me. Okay, let me go into it more though. But here's the thing: Dumbledore is like best buddies with Snape, right? He absolutely
Uh,
trusted Snape and
yeah,
the other teachers and everything, right? And so at least with the troll incident, like, I could see where you're coming from. Especially the troll incident for me. It's like, okay,
sure.
well, I trust the other teachers. Who's the only one that's been here for the shortest amount of time, being the newcomer, Coral, dependent on, you know what I mean? And to point him to exactly who
Right. Well, I'm not
the
arguing.
answer is.
I'm not arguing that it works. I'm just saying that I'm. Did you think that I was arguing that? 'Cause it's not. That's not what I was getting
No,
at.
no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah. It's
Contrived.
yeah. Well, it definitely is. I mean, you have to. You have to have the professors just overlook certain things to have the story go forward. Because you're right. I mean, unless Snape had suspicion, but just didn't have like absolute proof of what was going on. But it's weird, right? Because you have the Quidditch match that comes up later,
Mm-hmm.
and he knows at that point that like Quirrell's up to something. All I was getting at is that the reason that Harry, well, and he thinks that it's Snape, right? So the whole idea that of that first time that he sees Snape and his scar starts hurting is because Voldemort is present, not because Snape is the bad guy. And so he has a direct connection to him. But if you're just trusting that a professor is there and they're doing something, like if he doesn't, you would have to give me his reason before Snape starts getting suspicious as to why like Dumbledore would need to be let on, or
Quirrell.
because it's not like he doesn't have like a sixth sense. Like there's nothing in Harry Potter inherently that where like someone like McGonagall would just know someone was a bad guy.
Right. But couldn't you? Yeah, obviously, Dumbledore wouldn't, go looking in the person's mind or anything like that.
You think he would vet them,
But
then
that's what I was going to say.
right.
Taking it upon yourself to vet the person. But then not only that, you go to the troll incident and you're like, okay, someone had to let this into the school.
Yeah.
Let's start with the professors first.
Well,
and, and if you think about it, by the time all this had happened, the vault in the Green Gots had been broken into.
Right.
Harry was already at school. So rather than necessarily not only trusting Snape to do it, but wouldn't you also take it upon yourself to vet, the defense against the dark arts teacher?
Dude, you would think so. That's going to be a common thread throughout the movies. Is like, why do they not?
That's just what I mean. There's some things. So again, it's things I can overlook and everything. But whatever, fine. It's But it's things that, as we said, just because it's a children's story doesn't mean it still shouldn't make sense. And
you're right. Yeah, you are right.
Dumbledore, if you're going to set Dumbledore up again, it's not like Dumbledore. If you're going to have him make a mistake, it has to be something that's plausible. If they're going to be stupid in the moment, you got to give a reason to where it makes sense to why. Oh, okay, he made the wrong decision or a bad decision, but there was good reason for him to make this bad decision, right? You know what I'm saying? And that just doesn't happen here.
Oh yeah. It gets completely overlooked. There's as the story goes on, it definitely gets worse because I think you can overlook certain details of it early on. But then again, I'd have to go back and check to see if they specifically state when Voldemort gets a hold of Quirrell, and whether it's bad writing on the side of because she could have avoided this by Voldemort, and I guess the idea is that it like, is he always on the back of his head, right? And I guess the idea, it's supposed to be yes because he's wearing that turban all the time. And then it's like, well, why didn't you just change it so that Voldemort could hide? Like the thing in Malignant.
Yes, right.
It's that kind of stuff, yeah.
Exactly. And then it's also like the Centaurs when Harry meets them in the deadly forest, right? When he meets them and, the Centaur, I believe, tells him that the stone's in the school or whatnot. And so they know that it's in this in the school. And then they know, obviously, then it would be Voldemort who's the one that broke in the Gringotts. And then it was also Voldemort who drank the unicorn blood. So you would think that Dumbledore would be able to connect the dots saying, hey, this, and this happened. Obviously, it's Voldemort.
It definitely makes
other teachers like Snape's wise, like all these, you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the overall mystery of the movie is very amateur would be the word that I would use. But to be, I say to be fair, but
Snape go to Dumbledore when he knew that Quirrell was messing with Harry's broom?
Yeah, he didn't, did he? Yeah, they just let the kids get into danger, which is the other funny thing. It's like that happens a lot in this where it's a troubled school, Joseph. Like
much sore. So they let kids do extremely death-defying obstacle courses.
Dude,
and
Quidditch is
deadly.
Yeah, Quidditch is wild.
It's like,
they let a 12-year-old
fly, stay
hundreds of feet in the air,
unsupervised, like flying on the brooms. They have they open up saying, hey, don't go up to the 3rd floor corridor exactly in this area where there's a 3-headed dog waiting to eat you.
And
you will most truly die a painful death.
Yeah, Alohomora just unlocks a lock. Like there's no protections against that. Everything just works. It's like they expect the kids to just be, in line the whole time. And
then the restricted section is not restricted at all. There's nothing.
Oh yeah. There's
guarding it, and apparently,
Filch is supposed to be watching,
supervising.
Yeah, but he's not there very often.
Spells you can put on it to be like not allow anyone in it.
Yeah. Well, you would think that, and again, it's like this is where it very much not being written for people who are thinking about it this much. But it is funny because they easily get all the stuff. Harry gets an invisibility cloak. There's no all of the teachers know that thing exists. They know invisibility cloaks exist, and they don't do anything. There's nothing warding off the kids from being able to do that. And what's funny is that that doesn't exist, right? But you'll see, I can't remember which movie it happens in, but there are like charms or something set in place because I think it's at the end of the movie you find out that they can't use magic outside of Hogwarts until they graduate, or I think maybe once you hit a certain year you're able to do certain things. Well, there's almost an alarm system that goes off for that.
Right.
So they'll know if you use magic outside the school, but it's like, why don't you have all of these other protections to, make sure kids don't die? Because that's another thing that this series has a lot of is like kids randomly dying from stuff. I would say Cedric Diggory is the exception to that rule because that's not really his fault. Like what happens there. But at the same time, like as you get into these, you're like, why do the adults constantly seem like they have this blind spot to certain things that happen in this school? It's like even in this scene where the broom instructor, she basically just leaves these kids out here with these magical brooms.
And she would think she would have a way to be able to call back old Neville to prevent his broom from just flying off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's got to be a better setup than just have at it.
Yeah, some safety measures or whatever. And then, of course, it all really is just to set up this whole part. Even though I like this scene. There's, like I said, there's stuff in this that I like. I think the movie it's very charming. Which works in its favor, especially when you don't want, or when you're breaking something like this down. If your movie is charming, if your movie has a lot of good characters, and even if the script is interesting enough, there's tons of plot holes in this, but the idea behind it is still interesting enough that you're like, all right, I'm just going to overlook some of this stuff.
Yeah, because the idea of friends uniting to overcome, to help each other and to overcome a terrible foe while making self-sacrifices. It's one of the things that's like, well, at the end of the movie, Ron, they get points added for Ron,
the chess game,
the chess game and everything. Yeah, but it's not his self-sacrificing himself, like going into this depth about him. It's just, hey, you won the chess game, 50 points.
Yeah. Well, maybe lack of depth might be a common theme throughout these movies. But this is all set up for the Quidditch stuff, and as unreal as having 12-year-olds play Quidditch is,
still pretty fun.
You just kind of go along with it. Yeah, I mean, it's a different time, right? I mean, this was these movies are set in the 90s.
I enjoy the world too, by the way. It's a fantastic world she created.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think so. I think that it's when you get into the details of the way that it works, and then I've seen, these are some of my favorite arguments because I actually agree with this, but people all the time are like, why does the wizarding community not help muggles? Like the wizarding community at large, why they have spells, right, that repair just about everything. I imagine, okay, so for instance, now I imagine maybe this exists or there's a line about it somewhere and people just don't remember, or that, whatever the case may be, that there are wizards who live in the Muggle part of society, and maybe they do, and maybe this is just my headcanon, but that they do live in the Muggle part of society, and maybe they do use their magic to kind of help in the ways that they can. Because if you think about it, if you have a spell that you can pretty much repair anything, you could open up a very successful repair shop of any kind.
Very successful, and keep it on the DL too.
Yeah, there's all sorts of implications with the way that magic in Harry Potter works, and they just seem to keep to themselves. It's like, it kind of reminds me of Wakanda a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, I find the whole world interesting, if not very flawed, you know. But again, there's this part of me that thinks that a big defense of this would be like, you're not supposed to think about it this much because it's a kid's movie, right? Now, you and I both know that's not a good defense. But I can just hear it every time we like talk about certain aspects of this that are weird or don't make sense. All I can hear in the back of my head is someone telling me that it's like, it's a movie for kids. Like,
still doesn't mean it shouldn't make sense.
Exactly. I mean, that's part of the problem with, you could say, like, modern criticism, is that people just, they want to sweep away anything that is, you could call it productive criticism or just criticism in general of something. They're like, it's a kid's movie, or, oh, you just this or that. And it's like, no, I mean, we're talking about this because what should happen is that people are like, man, Harry Potter was successful. I'd love to write something as successful as Harry Potter. How do I do that and make it better?
Yeah.
You know? And one of the ways you can definitely do that is the details. Like, work on your world building. It's, you know, we've talked about it in the past, but it's definitely one of the reasons that Tolkien was so successful is because he was obsessed with his work. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Refining it and making sure that things were correct, and like changing mistakes that the publishers made in original copies and things like that, and just building out the world. You know, he did it for the majority of his life, right? Like, he was still working on it up until he died, and she kind of wrote Harry Potter and was like, all right, thanks for the money. I'm done.
Didn't go back and revise it or anything like that, and come out with new editions to kind of work on it.
Yeah.
And explain out the universe, which, you know, hey, maybe she doesn't want to anymore. But
she doesn't need to. I mean, that's the thing, man. It's like, I don't. It's kind of, it's definitely not the same situation, but you can see something similar to what's going on with George R.R. Martin, where, you know, he in particular became successful late in life. The guy's a multimillionaire, if not billionaire at this point. I don't know how much he's actually worth, but he's very, very wealthy now. Yes. And he kind of seems like he doesn't care about writing anymore. That's just, you know, how it goes. And with her, she's still writing, but I don't think anyone cares about the stuff that she's writing about the way that they did about Harry Potter. So, oops, I didn't mean to play that. I was trying to think if there was anything. I feel like we've covered.
I think we kind of hopped around and covered everything.
Yeah. I'm scanning through here to see if there's anything that I forgot about. I love. Okay, just this is something that I still remember. So this movie came out in 2001. So I was 12. So that's probably one of the reasons that these books worked for me, is because I've followed along, especially the movies, because technically the books came out a little earlier. I think the first book came out in like 99, something like that, 98 maybe. But the whole like Christmas part of this is pretty good, though. It's still very weird that it's like these kids are just like hanging out here almost completely unsupervised during Christmas in their dorms. And I guess
and the dorms are co-ed too, and they're like,
so they're co-ed. They have shared living spaces, but they have separate,
shower facilities.
I mean, I wasn't gonna say that. I was just gonna say like separate dorms. But
well, I'll just say it. But
yeah. Thanks for making it weird, Joseph.
How's that weird?
Because they're 12.
Yeah, there are places where to go and use the restroom.
You're like, they have separate shower facilities. Yeah.
First thing that came to my mind, bro.
I like the relationship that Ron and Harry have with Hermione in the first movie. I forgot how troubled it was. That they weren't immediately, like, Ron and Harry sort of become fast friends. But Hermione, it takes this movie for them to get closer to each other.
Yeah. I enjoyed Hagrid in this, just the soft, comforting nature of him, even though he's this big, burly guy, which is what he's supposed to be. I just enjoy it.
Yeah, I like him as a character. I think he's, at least in this movie, I won't speak for all of it because, again, it's been a while since I've seen it, but it's pretty strong. And like him, he's like half giant. He got kicked out of Hogwarts. He's not really supposed to be using magic, but he has some in the broom. And it's like people kind of know, and they just kind of let it go.
Yeah, right.
Which is fine, I think. I don't. His character, I gotta think about it. So, like, I guess the kids and Hagrid and the Dursleys all are probably pretty strong as far as characters are concerned. Because most of the professors, their biggest problem is that they have this, like, blind spot for the kids doing incredibly dangerous things. It's a pretty big problem in this. Dumbledore, I think you have mentioned it, but, like, in particular, he is pretty flawed as far as his character writing is concerned. Yeah. It'll be interesting to kind of keep an eye on that as the series goes on, and if the stuff that we've pointed out in this first one, if it's just a trend throughout all of them, where it's like, dang, why is Dumbledore, like, so bad at his job?
I think what's also kind of interesting too that I was thinking about is, how did Quirrell find Voldemort? Because I know it's mentioned later on in the movies that Bellatrix was the one who searched the longest and the most out of everyone because of her devotion to Voldemort and everything. But so how did Quirrell find him? And then on top of that, with the hands, what is it? I know it's a love, but, like, why is it Harry's hands that?
Oh, the whole, like,
turned
love stopped Avada Kedavra from.
Well, not even that, just a love, like, in him being able to put his hand on Quirrell at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And then also, how the heck did he get the freaking Philosopher's Stone in his pocket?
Oh, because no, they told you. That's total. I mean, like, it's not great, but, like, he got a hold of it. I mean, it's magic, right? So he got a hold of it because he was searching for it, but not for selfish reasons.
Right.
And it's like, is that an incredible plot point? Not really. Does it work? It's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, she could have, but I mean, honestly, I would say that the whole thing about how, like, Lily loving Harry kept him from dying. It's like, this is what I'm talking about with the magic system in this, where it's like, what? Why is that the case? Like, is this the first time that a mother has had to sacrifice herself for her child, and that's what saved him? Like, is this a common trend among, like, the cursed spells in this? It's it's weird. It's just,
it's all over this. It's all over. Kind of like we were talking about with the magic, right? Again, it's like, how did the school even track students?
You'd think that they would have. I mean, the Marauders map doesn't come up, I think, until the third movie. But to your point, it's a map of Hogwarts that tracks people, and it's just like, so Hogwarts just doesn't have this as something that all of the teachers have, where they all have a map of the school and every like student on there. And here's the thing, man, is like, there are things with this series that you could still make it work. There could, okay, so all the teachers have maps of the school. Well, someone probably would have figured out a workaround, You had all you need is to have one of the characters or have a character in the series be very like cunning or crafty, and that's kind of how they're characterized. And they're like, "Oh yeah, I came up with this specific charm thing, pick your poison, right? You can pretty much do whatever you want when it comes to magic. You just have to be consistent. Like that's kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah. Consistency.
And be like, well, I was having trouble with this, and I wanted to be able to like sneak away for whatever reason. You can make it as simple as like, oh, he has a girlfriend in Ravenclaw or whatever, and this kid's like, yeah, I wanted to be able to see her after hours or whatever, and keep it PG, I guess. But you get what I'm saying. And he's like, I wanted to go hang out or whatever, and then it's like I concocted this thing that the teachers can't tell when I'm out of the dorm at night, because they track us all with these maps, and then that leads into the Marauders map where, maybe it's something special, or like I don't know, like there's stuff that you could do. But instead, the way that her writing tends to work throughout all of it is that it's just based on convenience. Mm-hmm. It's like the plot has to happen, so these things have to happen. It doesn't really matter whether it's consistent with the character or not. So the Dumbledore stuff in particular, where it's like he's the headmaster, you'd think he would know about just about everything that's going on in the school. And you can still have him not know certain things because people are tricking him. Like Quirrell probably shouldn't have been a new professor. He probably should have been someone who was there for a long time who was corrupted. It's as simple as that, right? And then it's as easy as being like, well, magic can't tell us exactly what was going on with Quirrell. Like we can't read minds, or like you set something up where it's like it's illegal to read another wizard's mind. You know what I mean? Like without their permission or whatever the case may be. There's stuff that you can do. So. What's up, Tex?
What was kind of funny to me was in the troll scene when they lift the club above the troll's head and it hits him in the head and you hear the sound effect of it, but then when the club falls to the floor, it's silent, like no sound at all. I know it's kind of there's nothing it's just funny.
Yeah, they just forgot to put sound in for it.
yeah, it's just those sorts of things always crack me up because that's going to happen. But and I think there was this part whenever Harry's hanging upside down in it too at some whatever point, his scar isn't on his head.
But yeah, man. I mean, I know that there's a lot that isn't the best about this, but again, I the sets are great, the actors are great. I mean, like look at the chess stuff, dude. It just. You can see the care that went into this, and it's why some of the more ridiculous aspects of this, I'm like, I get it, but I still like this, you know? I do think that the whole, like, final confrontation is pretty weak. I'm with you. I'm definitely with you on that. His face on the back of his head looks so goofy, too. It's like it's supposed to be this like very like whoa like oh no Voldemort moment, and you're like this looks ridiculous.
It's supposed to be this big reveal, and it's just
yeah, and the way he beats him is by touching him because like he can't touch love or something. Like okay, I get what you're doing. I'm not sure it's the best, I think probably the only other thing, if I was going to criticize it, is that I think the movie's a little too long. Mm-hmm. I think that it's got some pacing problems in some places. But at the same time, and we'll get to that in later movies, I do appreciate that they were willing to stick to the source material. If I remember right, there's very little that they cut out of this.
Yeah. It seems that way.
There's I think a couple things, couple interactions maybe. But yeah, Dumbledore definitely seems aloof in this. Like he has no clue what's going on. And I guess it would, to be honest, dude, if they were to, and I don't think this is the case, but if she had come around in later books and Harry and Dumbledore had a conversation where he was basically like, look, I left you with your aunt and uncle to make you stronger. I knew everything that was going on with every one of these things that you got yourselves into, and I did this because I knew what was coming and what you in particular needed to be prepared for. Like, you get what I'm getting at with that, where you could call it a retcon from later on in the books, but if she was able to tie in why Dumbledore seems as dumb and aloof as he does sometimes in the series versus when he's on point, and it's like it was all to make sure that Harry was prepared for what potentially was coming, I probably could forgive a lot of this. I just don't think that's, if I remember correctly, I don't think that's how it works out. I don't think she had the foresight to consider any of that. We'll see. Listen, when we get further in, you never know. There are things that we've said here that we might be like, okay, well, we look back and maybe some of it wasn't quite where we weren't quite on point. But I mean, man, overall, and I bet
solid movie overall.
Yeah, and I bet I'll probably be in the same. I'm excited to watch more of these. I'm looking forward to watching Chamber of Secrets because I remember really enjoying that one. I think it's got a pretty interesting plot as far as what's going on. Again, though, it's like this incredibly dangerous place that is underneath Hogwarts that only specific people can get to.
And then let me just say these last two things. First off, snakes don't have eyelids and the snake blinks in it. I know that's kind of dumb, but that cracked me up.
Yeah.
Secondly, why are they using owls to carry their mail when they have magic? It seems incredibly inefficient.
It's all a whimsical thing. It's totally because
just
they can
kind of setting the tone.
Yeah, they have the ability to teleport. Like with all of the wizards in this, and again, it's where the magic comes in, being kind of weird. Everyone in this, when you hit like a certain, I think they learn it even when they're still at school. It might be their 5th or 6th year. They start learning how to teleport and travel around very quickly. Yeah, teleportation ruins so many things because it's like, okay, if you can teleport, why would you ever fly in a broom? Why would you ever use an owl to get your mail places? And I guess what they were trying to go for, what she was trying to go for with it, is that it has there are certain aspects of the wizarding world that are sort of this old world thing, like, oh, mail delivered by ravens or pigeons.
It's old kind of English type of reality.
Magic, though, it becomes a problem, and that's all you, dude. Honestly, all you would have to do is have a character ask, like, well, if we can do all of these things, why don't we do blank? So, for instance, like, if we can teleport or we can, instantly send things wherever we need them to go, why on earth do we use owls? And someone has to just be like, oh, it's just part of tradition. It's the old way.
Yep.
And it's easy enough.
You can throw away one.
Yeah, and because there's plenty of things in modern society that it's like people have traditions. They have certain things that, yes, maybe certain things are easier for them to do, but I prefer this method. And it can just be a wizarding thing. It's just, it doesn't have to be like perfect. It would be nice if certain things were kind of explained as to why they happen the way that they do. And I think that's maybe where some of the problem with the writing in Harry Potter comes from.
I'm not one of those people who, I agree with you, and this is my last thing. I'm not one of those two people who think that these movies can't be remade now. I know there are some diehard Harry Potter fans who do, but I would, for one, would enjoy seeing them remade just so I could see Dumbledore's character not change so sharply as it did in the 3rd or 4th movie, and you can kind of see that continuation, because it's not that I disliked the other Dumbledore's portrayal necessarily. I just enjoyed the original one better, and I would like to have seen that one all the way through.
Yeah, unfortunately. He was in Count of Monte Cristo, which is really good if you haven't seen that. The one with Jim Caviezel.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the old man in the that trains him.
Oh, he is,
he's
isn't
in
he?
prison.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, well, dude, I would love to see these remade. And I would really like HBO to just make a miniseries. Well, I say miniseries, but you know what I mean. Like, do television
series.
Mm-hmm. do episodes make it very accurate to the books, especially because
they can make so much money off that.
Yeah, I think that you could easily do 8 to 10 episode seasons.
Oh, dude, you could do 10 episode seasons, hour and a half long.
Yeah. You could. I would really, especially because I think that the 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th books deserve a little bit of a better treatment.
Yeah.
The 4th and 6th book in particular, I think, got absolutely just obliterated in the screenwriting process. They skip massive sections of the books, dude. The 6th. So these have been out forever. So spoilers we're way past that, In the 6th book, so there's a lot of the stuff that happens in the movie that is pretty accurate to it, but they leave out the massive battle at the end of the 6th book. So I think it's Harry, right? So I think it's through his perspective, but he's running through the castle and there's all of these characters that are fighting dark wizards and doing the whole deal. It's pretty cool. She was always pretty good about sort of the big moments,
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly from the writing, that kind of stuff I always really liked that she did. She had a very interesting imagination, and the movies just didn't always capture that properly. After a lot of people like the 3rd movie. I have problems with some of the visuals in it. I think it comes from more of it wasn't what I saw when I was reading the books. So I have issues with it, but some stuff in the 4th book, I think they skip completely, and there's challenges and stuff. He goes into a maze towards the end, and a lot of that gets either taken out. It's just not visually all that interesting. And then, like I said, that battle in the 6th book, Harry just runs through the castle. You don't get to see any of these epic fights, stuff that you're kind of waiting for. And I just remember that happening and being so disappointed. He runs straight out of the castle to confront Snape in the 6th book or in the 6th movie, and I was like, "What are you doing?" It's these movies are making millions and millions of dollars, and you can't leave this in.
Right.
One of the biggest parts of that book, and you're just nah, we're not doing that. And that's why a majority of that movie is just angsty, hormonal teenagers.
Right.
We'll get there. We're not there. We'll get there. You got anything else to add?
No, that's it, man.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to our first Harry Potter review.
We did not ruin your childhood because this one held up.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. So, we might be doing the next one next week. We may be doing John Wick.
You'll have to tune in to find out.
Yes, one of those two things I'll be talking about John Wick either way. But it just kind of depends on the depth of that conversation. But I'm looking forward to see what a lot of people like it. Heard some not so great things, but it just kind of depends. I'm gonna try to watch the other 3 this week.
Yeah. If I go see it this week, I'm definitely gonna watch the 3rd one so I can remember.
Yeah. I like the first one a lot. I don't care as much for 2 and 3. They're
right.
a little. I think without having seen them in a while, I remember the series gets kind of bloated.
Yep.
It gets to be a bit much where you're like, okay. It's why I like Nobody so much. Because Nobody is a similar style, but it's very well paced. It doesn't overstay its welcome. And I remember this particularly. Yeah, the 3rd John Wick movie. I just remember that movie kind of overstayed its welcome. So who knows? The troll room might get really mad depending on how I feel about it. So it'd be really funny if I came back and was like, that movie sucked.
Right. They get really mad then, probably.
They'd be like, what? I don't think it's going to be that bad. It'll probably be refreshing compared to a lot of the stuff that we've had to endure. But yeah, man, if you don't have anything else to say, I will close the show out.
Yes, sir. I am done.
Good. All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to episode 134 of The Underground. We will be back next week with some sort of news. We were going to talk about the TikTok stuff, but that, I don't know. We'll wait for it to get riled back up again.
Let's do it.
If you ever wanted a reason to know where I stand, sort of like in the political realm, just go watch the TikTok stuff where they were. I was gonna say interviewing. That's not correct. They were questioning the CEO of TikTok. That's why I fall where I do politically.
Yep. Exactly.
And if you can't figure it out, then I guess we will have to talk about it eventually. But yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and until next time, y'all take it easy.
See ya. All right, dude. I'm